Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 75, and for this one, we play a meetup game at the Westgate with one of my favorite players of all time. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. We're about to get things started. It's a very special meetup game because we're joined by Jason Somerville. I've been a huge fan of his for a long time. He's the first poker player that I ever watched on YouTube, and if it weren't for him and Andrew, I never would have started making videos. There aren't many people who've done more for the game of poker than he has, so I'm already pumped up just because he's in the building, along with a lot of other running-up warriors. After a short time, the place fills up. I buy into the game for 1,000. We're playing 2-5 no limit, and within the first orbit, I pick up ace-king offsuit under the gun +1. I open to 15, the hijack 3 bets to 40, it's a small 3 bet, the button cold calls, and it's back on me. I'm never folding, so I've got two options. Option number 1 is to call. I like this because it's only 25 more, and most players don't 3 bet that light, so I could be up against a big hand. I don't like it because then I have to play out of position against multiple opponents. Option number 2 is to 4 bet. This allows me the opportunity to win the pot right now and avoid playing out of position. The problem is that it reopens the pot, so it's possible that I'll face a 5 bet or I'll get called by at least one player and I'll have to play an even bigger pot out of position. I choose option number 2, I 4 bet to 200. The hijack has zero fear, he calls, I put him on a super narrow range. He could have pocket aces down to jacks, ace king, and possibly ace queen suited, but that's not nearly as likely. The button folds, so the hijack and I are heads up. Our plan of taking it down pre-flop did not work. We're going to need to make a hand. It's tough to make a pair. The flop comes 10-5-3 rainbow, we brick it. It's hard to imagine that I'd be able to get a better hand to fold here or a worse hand to call, so I check. I'm fine with giving up if I face a bet. The dude 3 bet me small and then called a big 4 bet. I could be drawing almost dead. The hijack bets 125 though. This is pretty annoying. I'm getting over 4.5 to 1, but I'm out of position. I've got no idea where I'm at. Can't fold for that price in case I'm chopping or up against pocket queens or jacks. I could still potentially have 6 outs against those hands. I call. The turn is the deuce of spades. I check and the opponent checks back. I can safely rule out a hand like aces or kings. He'd probably bet turn with either of those holdings, but the player seems to be afraid of something. The river is a 6. There are 4 to the straight out there, but there's absolutely no reason for either of us to have a straight. I can't reasonably rep one. I check. The player bets 300, I go into the tank. This is a nightmare situation for me. My hand might as well be face up. I 4 bet pre-flop, check call the tiny bet on the flop, and then check turn and river. I've already narrowed down the opponent's range to queens, jacks, ace king, or maybe ace queen suited. Would he bet queens or jacks knowing that I might not be able to call with anything worse? Can't be sure. Kind of feels like he's got ace king as well, and is trying to get me off of a chop. Or possibly he has ace queen and he's trying to get me to fold a slightly better hand. The pot is almost 1,000, it's 300 to me. I'm too curious of a monkey. I call. The player has pocket jacks, he gets the absolute maximum out of me. I'm not happy with myself at all. I kind of leveled myself and right away I'm stuck over 600. Just 2 hands later I pick up pocket 3s in the big blind. Under the gun +2 limps in, a player in middle position raises to 25. The cutoff calls, I call, and the limper calls as well. 4 of us see the flop. It's 9-5-3 with 2 hearts. We've got bottom set in a multi-way pot. We're in great shape to win some money back. Checks to the cutoff. She bets 60. She's an aggressive player that I've known for a while. I call, thinking she'll likely bet again on the turn. The 2 other players fold, so we're heads up. The turn is the deuce of diamonds. It's one of the best cards in the deck for me. I check. The cutoff fires again, this time for 70. There are lots of cards I wouldn't be too happy to see on the river, so it's time to raise it up. I make it 250. The player lets her hand go. We win a good chunk back, but we're still stuck quite a bit. Shortly after I pick up pocket 10s in the small blind, the opponent in the last hand opens a 20 from the hijack. I'm probably best and don't necessarily want to play this one from out of position. I 3 bet to 75. The opponent apparently takes this as me hitting on her.
$75, Brad?
US.
Really? If you want to go out with me, just ask.
How did she know? She calls. We're heads up. It comes king, king, 6. Not bad for us. I down bet to 60. The hijack calls. The turn is the ace of diamonds. It's a little scary. I check. The hijack checks back. And the river is the 8 of spades. I check once again, and the hijack checks. I turn over the pocket 10s. We're good. We win it. The hijack has pocket 9s. We're down 300 now. That's when we're dealt ace-king offsuit in the hijack. Middle position opens to 15. The player on my right calls with a short stack. I 3-bet to 65. The initial pre-flop raiser calls. The other player folds. We're heads up. The dealer puts out 4-4-3 with 2 spades. It's still hard to make a pair. It's check to me. I check back. The turn is the 6 of hearts. Middle position player bets 95. Lost enough with ace high today. I let it go. Time for a bomb pot. We all put in 15 blind pre-flop and go straight to a flop. We pick up pocket jacks in the middle position, and the flop comes 7-7 deuce with 2 clubs, so we've got an overpair, and the player on my right bets 75. This is a tough spot because he's betting when 8 other people are involved in the hand. He could easily have me beat. There are a number of people behind me that could have me crush as well. The value of overpairs drastically decreases on paired boards when this many opponents have hands. Still seems premature to let it go, so I call. The remaining players fold. The field has been cleared. It's heads up. The turn is a third 7. This is a great card. Flush draws could be drawing dead or extremely slim. I'm beating pocket deuces, and there are half as many combos containing 7s out there. However, this card does not seem to bother the opponent. He fires for 100. I call. The river is a 6. The player checks. I feel good about jacks in this situation, but it might be tough to get a worse hand to call. I put out a small bet of 150, really targeting hands like 8s, 9s, or 10s. The player reaches for chips and puts out an amount that I'm not happy with. He raises it up to 350. Since this is a bomb pot, the opponent can have every single possible combination containing a 7. There's a lot of them. He bet flop when everyone was in the hand. The turn didn't bother him, and he's check raising me small on the river. I don't see how he could be bluffing me in this situation.
Just had it, huh?
I fold the jacks to a tiny raise. The player's nice enough to show for the camera. He had ace-7 of hearts for quads. I could have lost less if I checked back river, but at least I didn't lose the maximum, like I did in that first hand. We switch tables after that and pick up ace-2 suited in middle position. I open to 15. The small blind is the only caller. It comes ace-queen-9 rainbow. The small blind checks. I check it back to somewhat disguise my hand. The turn is the 4 of clubs, giving me a flush draw to go along with my top pair. This time the small blind bets 50. I call, hoping to drill a club. The river is another queen. The small blind checks. I check back, and we're up against jack 10 of clubs. Could have made a lot of money if a club came on the river. Instead, we win a much smaller pot, but we'll take it. Here we've got ace-queen offsuit under the gun. We open to 15. 4 players call. We go 5 ways to the flop. It's king 10 deuce with 2 hearts. The small blind and big blind both check. High cards are good for my under the gun raising range. As it is, I've got a gutter and a backdoor nut flush draw. I take a stab at it betting 55. Maybe this isn't that great of an idea since there's so many other opponents. If I do get called, there are lots of cards that can help me on the turn though. Folds back to the big blind. That's Benton Blakeman. He's the founder of the Hand History Lounge. He does Calling Out with Andrew, and lately he's been pursuing golf. I don't know what I'm doing in golf, but we've been having some Instagram golf battles. I did hit this one, and I thought it was pretty good, until all the golf pros that follow my social media came out of the woodwork to tell me it was garbage. Benton is a golfing beast though. Anyway, Benton calls to 55. The turn is the king of spades. He checks. It's mainly representing a king on the flop. I continue with the story that I'm strong. I bet 85. Benton folds. That's right, I bluffed him with the best hand. He has 6-4 hearts. We did get the small blind to fold pocket 8s on the flop though. That's pretty good. We take down the pot. Next we have ace-8 offsuit in a double board bomb pot. Every player puts in 15 blind, then we do 2 separate runouts. You have to win both to scoop the pot, otherwise you'll chop it. The first board comes out ace-queen-4 with 2 diamonds. The second board comes ace-6-3 with 2 hearts. We've got top pair on both boards. We're in amazing shape. That's pretty tough to do. I actually checked before even looking at my cards. I wasn't planning on making a hand, but I accidentally did. Here you see me looking at my hand for the first time. The cutoff bets 50. The button calls. Then the big blind calls. I contemplate raising. It's tough for me to be in bad shape unless I'm against an ace with a better kicker. I end up calling because with 3 other players showing interest, it's at least possible that someone has me beat on both boards. 4 of us see the turns. On the top board, it's the 7 of diamonds, so anyone with a flush draw on that board got there. On the bottom board, the dealer puts out the 8 of clubs, giving us 2 pair. Checks to the button, he goes all in for 250. The big blind folds, the action's on me. I shove, the cutoff folds, the button has 9 6 of diamonds for the flush on top and a pair on the bottom board. I'm drawing dead on the first board, and he's drawing live to a 6 on the second one. The first river is a queen. Please don't do it to me on the second board. The second river is another queen, so we chop it up. The next hand gets a little weird. I have king 10 of hearts in the cutoff. I open to 15. The button calls, he's a buddy of mine. He tends to be pretty aggressive. We're heads up, and the flop is ace jack jack with 2 hearts. We flop the royal flush draw. I end up checking. I do that a lot against aggressive players when I'm out of position, even as the pre-flop raiser, and even if I'm relatively strong like I am here. The bad part about it is that I can't win the pot right away. The good part is that it disguises my hand, it keeps the pot small, and I get to see what the player behind me wants to do, so the next time the action's on me, I'll have more information to work with. The button bets 20. I make the call. The turn is the 9 of spades. I check. The player bets 70. It's almost a pot-sized bet. I definitely can't go anywhere, but I don't love the situation. I call. The player might be bluffing, but I could also be drawing slim. The river is the 4 of spades. We've got nothing. I check. The player bets 215. Again with a pot-sized bet. I fold. He tells me later that he flopped trip jacks. It was a strange hand, not 100% sure. I like how he played the flop, but we got to see all 5 cards without paying too steep of a price, and we avoided going broke. Now we look down at pocket aces.
This is the most beautiful sight piece of ice I've ever seen.
We raise to 15 from under the gun plus 2. The button calls, the small blind calls, then the big blind puts in a 3-bet to 75. This is one of those situations you dream about. In my mind, he's a fairly tight player, so he could definitely have a monster hand himself. I'm not going to slow play this. I 4-bet to 225. The button and the small blind get out of the way. It's back on the big blind. He calls. The flop comes queen 7-4 with 2 spades. The big blind checks. It's an interesting flop. I only put the player on 3 hands. That's ace king, pocket kings, and pocket queens. Ace king has nothing. He's not going to be able to call a bet unless he has the one combo of ace king of spades. Kings is going to hate this flop because anything that I bet for value is going to have him beat. Queens has me crushed. I check back, hoping it's going to look like I missed with ace king. Maybe he'll be able to value bet kings on the turn, or perhaps he'll turn ace king into a bluff to try and get me off what could look like a chop. The turn is the 8 of clubs. The big blind checks again. It's time to bet. I put 200 out there. He just calls. At this point, I rule out queens because he'd either lead turn or check raise if he had top set once there's 2 flush draws out there. The river is the 9 of clubs. The big blind checks. Not worried about the backdoor flush. Since I have the ace of clubs, there aren't any flush combos that I'll be up against that make sense given the pre-flop action. I bet 450. Kings will absolutely have to call this bet. If he has queens or something else that has me beat somehow, good for him. Before I even get the bet out, the player folds.
Kings. Oh, kings. Nice fold, man. Very nice fold. Had it.
I want to throw up in my mouth. I don't know how we folded that or didn't get it in pre-flop, but we win the minimum. We do win another double board bomb pot with Jack 10, making a pair on both boards. That and the fact that we're unstuck is the only thing that's keeping me from losing my mind after that aces versus kings hand. Andrew's having a fantastic night. He's crushing, probably up enough to get us out of the deficit. Jason cashes out for piles after slaughtering all the YouTube viewers.
It's on me. I'm not in for $2,000 or anything, don't worry. This is it. I actually bought in for 200 and just couldn't help myself. I just kept winning the pots. That's it. There's no footage of how much I bought in for, right? Don't give them the camera footage of me rebuying like 9 times.
I head to the final table of the night. I scoop another bomb pot. Never won so many in my life. Then I get dealt 10-9 of diamonds on the button. The under the gun player straddles. Under the gun plus 1 limps in. Under the gun plus 2 raises to 40. I realize that I haven't 3-bet anyone light tonight. Can't have that. I make it 125. The players all fold, which I'm fine with. In this hand, we're dealt ace-king offsuit, and we open to 15 from under the gun. The cutoff calls. His name is RC. He's been to several meetup games. He's a cool dude. The big blind also calls. 3 of us see the flop. You might notice there are a lot of painted cards out there. That's good for us. We've got the top one. The big blind checks. I bet 20. The cutoff calls and the big blind folds. We're heads up. The turn is another 5. I bet 50. The cutoff calls again. I mainly put him on some sort of draw. The river is an offsuit 6. All the draws miss. I check, hoping to induce a bluff, or maybe he'll bet a king if he has one. He checks back, we turn over our hand, and it's a winner. I'm glad I got RC because I lost a $20 bet to him earlier in the year. He's a big Chiefs fan, and I'm a Niners fan. I bet that the Niners would cover the spread against them in week 3. That didn't happen, and to make things worse, Jimmy Garoppolo went down, essentially ending the Niners season.
All your dreams dissed.
In the last hand we'll go over, we have pocket jacks in the cutoff. The table's 6-handed. Under the gun opens a 20. I just flat. The button calls. 3 of us see the flop, and it's 9-4 deuce with 2 diamonds. The player under the gun bets 35, definitely not folding. I call. The button calls as well. The turn is the 5 of spades, and the under the gun player checks. I bet 100. Both players toss their cards into the muck. We win one last hand. Could have played better overall in the session, but we got out of a big hole we put ourselves in early on, and we book a small win. I feel like tonight I wasn't really on point, but that happens. You're gonna have days like that. Happy to get unstuck. I won 180 on the night. Had a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people. Super happy that Jason came out. That was awesome to meet him. That's the first time I've ever met him. And now it's time for my favorite part of the night, going out to the bar, having drinks, and just hanging out with everyone. We get a good group to keep the party going. After a couple drinks and some hand histories, we head home. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps out the channel a ton. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll definitely get back to you. I want to give a big thanks to Jason Somerville for coming out, and for everybody else who showed up to the meetup game. That was awesome. Thanks to the Westgate. And if you're in Las Vegas, we have another meetup game on Wednesday, November 14th. So that's in couple days from now. It starts at 7 p.m. It's a special 2-3 no limit game. So we're doing a little bit smaller stakes on this one. Anyway, hope you're all doing well. Good luck at the tables. See you next time.
I have been a fan of yours since I saw you punt off our partner stack in the World Series event this summer. That was my first exposure to your...
That's terrific. We usually don't talk about that, so that's pretty funny. I actually haven't seen that one because I knew what happened, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get roasted here in the comment section. And
you had a great tweet about that. You were like, you guys should watch this. I'm not gonna watch it, but you guys should.
I know exactly what you're talking about there. You're just like, all right, guys, well, this happened. I'm not gonna acknowledge that it happened, but yes. Onwards and upwards from there. Are you going to come to run in a Prino?
So I was on the fence, but